I think you take a quarterback a year. I think
No matter what.
I think you always take a quarterback. Just look at the nature of the position. You could lose LSU legitimately could lose 2 guys before you start the season. I mean, it wouldn't shock you, right, if they lost definitely 1 after the decision is made on who's going to be the starter, right? So to me, you can't have enough guys in that room that are competing and battling. Forget just the transfer stuff as well. I mean, you got to talk about what happens on one snap when you lose a guy. You know, I mean, I know in a perfect scenario, LSU would like to prohibit Walker Howard from playing any meaningful snaps. But the fact of the matter is that Walker Howard's 2 snaps away from playing. And in the SEC, that's not a it's not a pipe dream to think about that you could lose multiple guys at one position. So it's you know, I mean, it's very rare you go through a season like 19 LSU did where, you know, your quarterback plays nearly every snap and is physically, you know, I mean, he took some shots. Talking about Burrow. You know, rare do you see you go, you know, finish line to or start line to finish line with your guy intact, taking every meaningful snap. I mean, that position is always going to have a sense of insurance to it. You always have to have a sense of, hey, you got your guy, but if he goes down, are you prepared there? And LSU's sitting in a really good spot right now. I mean, as Denbrock said, feels like he's got the most talented or at least the deepest quarterback room in the conference, maybe in the country. You can lose that overnight, especially in today's college football world, right? Where somebody gets a feeling, somebody gets a thought, somebody, you know, feels like they're outside of the competition looking in, or another school gets in touch with you, which is happening, right? I mean, don't think that coaches aren't saying, "Hey, who's got the best quarterback room in the country right now?" LSU's up there. Why? Well, they got 2 guys that can play outside of the starter that they're going to name. They got 3 legitimate quarterbacks that you can win games with at a high level. Okay, somebody's going to lose out on that job. Make sure we're in contact with all of those guys so when the time is right, they know that we're an option. I mean, that's happening. LSU's probably doing that to people that they need at other positions. I guarantee you there's DBs and offensive linemen out there thinking in the back of their head, I know I can go to LSU and play. Just like one of these quarterbacks that's on LSU's campus is probably thinking, I know I can go to X and play if I don't win it out here. So, you know, I don't think that you can ever have enough quarterbacks in the stall, in the room to compete with. Because on any given practice day, you may piss one of them off now in today's college football world and they may transfer, or you're a snap away from, you know, one of them cracking an ankle or blowing an ACL. I mean, you never know. So I would take 1 quarterback per year and just live with the outcome. If he transfers, he transfers. If he plays, he plays. But at least you've got the numbers in the position. What LSU has been caught in so many times, and I mean, LSU was a cautionary tale, and still to a degree probably is in college football on how it is clear to mismanage the quarterback position. LSU was the poster child for that school. And we've talked about it so many times. I know if you've listened to this show, you get it. But, I mean, how many times has LSU looked at an incoming freshman or a very young player at that position and said, hey, win us games. We've got to have you to win big-time games. And the effect that has on the program, not just the player, not just the position, but the overall program. You can have 5 stars at every single position on the field. If you don't have it figured out at quarterback, you'll go 8-4. And that's just how it is. And for the longest time, LSU had 5 stars everywhere, but they had Andrew Hatch and Anthony Jennings taking the snaps. And no disrespect on those guys, but they weren't ready to play at that level. They couldn't play alongside the talent that was playing next to them. And those are only two names of a list of guys that have been inside of that position for LSU on just not ready to play. Brandon Harris wasn't ready to play. Jarrett Lee wasn't ready to play. Hell, I could make the argument that Jordan Jefferson wasn't ready to play. You know, I mean, nobody has ever been from a cycle standpoint. To me, that's why you've got such a great position and such a great opportunity with Walker Howard to manage this guy the right way. So the first time he takes a meaningful snap, mentally, he's all good. He's not broken. He's not, his confidence isn't shattered. He's on a playing line, a trajectory of where, hey, once you're ready to take a meaningful snap, and I still think he plays some snaps here in his freshman season, but nothing meaningful, right? I mean, throw him up when you're up 3 scores against Southern for the second half and let him get a couple of reps. Throw him in on the road, whether you're getting blown out or you're up on somebody, and give him an opportunity to see what it's like. Let him play in a league game where the situation helps itself or finds itself. Let him play in a non-league game that, you give him an opportunity to play extended action. But you don't burn the red shirt. You give him an opportunity to get into the offseason with some confidence. And then you put him into the competition and you say, hey, look, man, you could win the job.
What's the earliest you think you see him, Walker Howard? Not Southern.
No, Southern's probably too early, but
because they're still trying to figure. I'd imagine there's still a pretty heavy quarterback debate going.
Yeah, and look, I'm big on when you have quarterback competition, especially early in the season, for getting your guy as many reps as you can. So if Garrett Nussmeier's a quarterback, play him all 4 quarters against Southern. Mm-hmm. I mean, play him. I know that you got to have a dependable backup and a guy that you can count on, but to me, first-team reps are more important. And if you got a first-team guy that hadn't gotten and look, that's one thing that we're going to have to follow that we'll have to follow in fall camp. How many reps is each guy getting? One of the frustrating things that we heard about Walker Howard in spring camp was once he got healthy, he couldn't get a rep. Well, Miles Brennan wants all the reps. Garrett Nussmeier's in a huge competition for the starting job. He wants reps. Jaden Daniels trying to prove himself to new teammates and coaches. He wants the reps. So now you're 30 minutes into practice and Walker Howard hadn't taken a snap yet. So, there is going to be a lot of, you got to make the most of every single rep in this competition to secure your spot in the discussion. And how they divvy up those reps early on in fall camp is really going to dictate on how each prospect and player has the opportunity to present their case. Present my argument on why I deserve to be the starter. So, it'll be interesting. Graham Kelly, basically I'm saying any time and effort used on a guy committed elsewhere who doesn't flip could have been used to secure someone else not committed anywhere. That could be the extra edge that wins it. I hear you, Graham, but in the world of recruiting, nobody ever feels secure about anything. That's the thing. I'm with you that, look, you want to point your direction and focus your energy all in the right areas and where you can maximize everything you're doing, but it's a very unscientific strategy in recruiting, right? In the sense of you want to stay balanced, you want to stay measured in the way that you build the class, but a lot of times, specifically at times right now where recruiting is going 100 miles an hour and people are taking visits and coaches are texting and DMing and making relationships and establishing communication, and everybody's kind of talking to one another and everybody's going places and everybody's visiting campuses and everybody's getting messages here and messages there and hearing from this coach and talking to that coach, and everybody's getting it a little differently, right? You don't know what the other side's feeling. Take Zalance Hurd, for example, right? We talked to a couple of coaches around Hurd's recruiting last week, LSU, Texas, Oklahoma. All 3 schools said the same thing. They feel like they're the team to beat. Now, when you look up at Texas and they don't get an official visit for Zalance Hurd, tells you a little something. You realize Zalance Hurd took that weekend to go to Nebraska to visit Mickey Joseph and that staff with the Cornhuskers rather than going to Austin. It tells you a little something. Right? But, I mean, you everybody's kind of playing the guessing game. You feel like you're good because when you made the pitch, he was very receptive. And, everything was, yes, sir, I'm in, yeah. Who knows what he's telling the other schools? That's the game and the gamble that you play in recruiting that you can't ever really put your finger on. You can't really, you feel like you've done your best and that they've heard the best pitch that you have, but who knows how it's going to settle. So I'm with you. I look, man, I'm with you, Graham, that they've got areas of concern here where they need to start really getting on the ball on offensive line and defensive back, and you've got to start getting after some areas of concern. But, I don't know if you're ever really truly satisfied or at least secure in your feeling when you're talking about recruiting.
A lot of dudes at the bar.
For sure.
Brian, she ain't home till she's home.
Brian Kelly to GOAT, anything you're hearing on the starting quarterback job, or who do you think will start week 1? Look, we've talked a lot about the quarterback job here at LSU. I think it's going to be a really good competition. At the end of the day, I think Garrett Nussmeier is going to be the number 1 quarterback for this team for the majority of the season. Whether he takes the first snap against Florida State, look, I could be. I could still hear where Miles Brennan takes that snap because of.
How many quarterbacks do you think you see week 1?
I think you only see 1.
Worst case 3.
Worst case 3.
Or best case 3, where you beat the brakes off.
I'm not trying to replay the Rose Bowl.
No, you don't want 3 quarterbacks playing.
No matter what. 45-10.
You're in trouble.
I mean,
45-10.
Yeah, get them all in
that's
there.
a good side.
But if it's what?
But I mean, if you're third quarter wondering if you can get any production from your second or third guy,
we're in a tight spot, coach.
That's a bad spot. It's a bad spot.
If y'all throw the ball one more goddamn time.
But to answer your question, BK to GOAT, I would say that Miles Brennan starts game 1, but Garrett Nussmeier ultimately is the number 1 quarterback on LSU's team in 2022.
How quick's the leash?
Probably pretty quick.
You're starting MB to
probably
keep
pretty
him
quick.
in the boat, right?
Probably pretty quick.
All things created equal, you'd have Nussmeier trot out.
I mean, as soon as
you go on first turnover.
As soon as the scouting report is out, where you are just getting him off his mark, and you are moving him around the pocket, and that becomes the outlook. That becomes what you're defending against, and then you put Nussmeier in that role in that situation, and he gets you out of it and makes a play. Then it becomes.
This is obvious.
You can't lose the locker room at that point because the people that know the best are the guys that are practicing alongside of them 5 days a week, and then when you turn the lights on Saturday night, who gives them the best chance to win? At that point, NIL stuff, all the locker room stuff's out the window. It's about winning games.
Yeah, we got to win a football
That's
game.
it. And if 13 gives you the best chance to win, well, then 13 needs to be the quarterback.
But don't you think Miles Brennan's going to have to take some time? He hasn't played a competitive football game in 2 years.
Have you seen him?
He's not going to look.
You can't make excuses for that at this level.
Yeah, but you're going to. I mean, and I agree with you. I'd imagine he's going to start out and he's going to trot out there week 1 as the starter in New Orleans. It'll be comfortable, but it's going to be rusty. Like he's going to have to get a full half of football in before you can really make.
Yeah,
a
I'm not
change.
saying he gets pulled the second series.
Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think that'll happen either.
But
the book's out on Miles.
But it's gonna. It might not look good the first.
Sure.
8 snaps.
Which is why you could sell Jaden Daniels being a very good change of pace package for LSU.
I said you could see 3.
So possible.
I love it.
I hate it.
How many days away are 60?
September 4th?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're under 2 months. You're under 2 months.